Hello YouTube, welcome back to Bayliner boys. Thanks for tuning in. I thought I'd do an update on our electrics issue that we had. So unfortunately I didn't record the doing of the electrics because there was that much to do. It took us a full day. Now I just want to do a big shout out and a thanks to my mate Jimmy over at Dare to Dream. Check out his YouTube channel below. He built his own motorhome and travelled Europe in it, so I sponged off his knowledge of electrics because I'm not that knowledgeable on electrics, especially when it comes to 12 volt. So he come up for the full day and helped me out, and we basically rewired everything. So the good news is the engine now starts on the key, which it didn't before. All the switches on the dash work. All the kill switches work. We've got a new safety inline fuse which didn't exist before.
Nice.
Any redundant wires that we had, gone. And then we've rewired the bilge pumps in. I mean, initially what we tried to do is use the old wiring and just rewire it all back up. That was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Obviously this boat's over 10 years old, so over the period of time the owners have probably rewired stuff, changed stuff, taken stuff out, and that's what we found. There was a lot of redundant wires that just didn't need to be there, and there were some wires that just didn't connect to anything, and then the wires that were connected to stuff just didn't work. So rather than try and work out and trace wires, we just ripped it all out and started again, and I must admit it was a lot easier than I thought it would have been. So yeah, big thanks to Jimmy. So I'll show you what we've done. So what he did first is he came and made sure the shoreline is actually connected up properly and works and safe, and that's all good. We then started with the kill switches here, and he made sure that they were all wired up correctly, which they are, which is fine. And the way it's linked up to the leisure battery and the 12 volt battery, that all works too. So I think I explained this before, but this is a 12 volt battery. So that's obviously engine, lights, auxiliaries, all that kind of stuff. This is your leisure battery. So at the minute all this is powering is the 240 system inside, so the plug sockets, the fridge. But if the 12 volt fails, we can switch this and we can draw power from the leisure battery through to the 12 volt in case there's any issues. So that's all good. They're all wired up correctly. I might put some new switches on because they're a bit tacky. So that was the first step. They then obviously came and checked out the inverter, and I shall show you one moment. So the inverter, I wasn't sure how it works, how it should be wired up or anything like that. But my pal has made sure it's all wired up correctly. It goes up to the switches, and you can see the new inline fuse there. That didn't exist before, so if there was a shortage or an overload, the wires would just have burnt. It could have caused a fire, so that's essential, and it's a good job we got that in. So that's all working, it's all charging fine. Then the main bit to tackle was the dash. So before, I think only one of these switches work, which was the wiper. It's still not fully fixed up. I've ordered some stainless steel screws to put it all back together because the screws that were in it before weren't stainless steel and they started rusting. But these are all brand new switches because the ones that were on before, I think I've binned them now, but they were just grey. The plastic on them had all started corroding, and it felt minging. Plus these have got some fancy lights, so I'll show you that actually now. So here we are. It's still not fully secured back up, as I say. There's a few wires hanging down, but I'm just waiting for these screws so I can put it all back together properly. But the amount of wires, so we've had to replace the fuse box here. This is a brand new fuse box. The one it had the same one on before, but it didn't have a panel, so I didn't know what was what. And there were that many wires that went into it that it just weren't labelled. Didn't know where they went, what they did. So we just thought it'd be easy to rip it all out and start again. And so brand new fuse box, it's all been tested. That's working as it should. And then I wanted to keep the original switches where they are as best as I could. So we'll start off here. So we've got a new horn. That's not lighting up at the minute because I haven't actually got a horn yet. I need to order one. The original switch was on a spring switch, so you'd press it and it'd spring back as you would like a normal horn, but I wanted all the switches to match the OCD like that. So what we've done is wired that in, so that turns the power onto the horn, and then here's the button, so you would just press the spring button and that would sound the horn. So happy with that. Bilge pumps, I'll go over them in a minute, but I've kept them on the same switch. Blower, you can hear it whirring away. Nav light, so the nav light on the front now is wired up to that. I've got 2 more nav lights coming, which I've ordered for either side because it doesn't have them. So once they come, I can wire them in too. Anchor light, again, I don't have one yet, but it's wired up, ready to go. I just need to find an anchor light and order one. And then the wiper. There we go. I also decided to put these bits in which were left over off the switch panel, because I ordered the switch panel and these came with it, so I've wired the digital voltage in. So I do in effect have 2. Doesn't really matter because they both show the same thing, but that's more accurate. I've got a 12 volt like car charger, so that's for if I want to, I don't know, charge my phone here, or well, anything really that you want to put on a car charger. But then here we've got USB sockets which I could put my phone in, or any navigation equipment that I might need. So they're there. I think that looks pretty good. I do need to clean up the instrument glass. I think at some point I'm going to take them off, give them a good scrub, and hopefully they'll come up nice. And I might see about maybe putting a coat of paint over this because it just looks a bit tacky. And then the key, so this didn't work before. I had loads of issues with it. I thought it was a wiring to the back of the ignition, and I spent ages rewiring all that. Didn't solve the problem. I think I've done another video on the solenoid, which is down there, which I replaced. So it was part of the solenoid issue, and there were literally 2 wires in the engine bay that just weren't connected. And when I connected them up, all of a sudden the key started. It worked on the key, so that's fine. I've sorted that out, tied it up. So turn the key, we've got ignition on. You can see we've got power straight to all the dials. Oil pressure's not working correctly at the minute. I think it needs a new oil sensor in the engine, because it constantly just shows the pressure 8 psi when obviously it's not even running, so it's not. But yeah, you can't really see it now, but the lights behind the LEDs behind the clocks are working too. So I'll explain the bilge pump. Now the 2 bilge pumps before were knackered. They were wired in, but the switch just did not do anything. And underneath here, the forward bilge, that was full of water, and the engine bilge was full of water too, and none of them worked. So just trust me when I say I took them both out, and essentially it had the float mechanism, and then it had the motor to pump out the water. The float was fine, but the motors on both of the bilge pumps were just stiff and solid, and I tried wiring the power directly to it from the 12 volt, and none of the motors actually turned on, so I knew they were both knackered. So I've ordered 2 new bilges, where it's just one compact unit, so it's got the float and the motor in one unit. I'll show you that now actually. So here's a new bilge pump. As you can see, got all brand new wiring, and it's hooked up to the hose, and it's drained most of the water out. So the water level before was probably to the top of that bilge pump. It was pretty deep, and it got it all out pretty quickly. I just need to tidy those wires up at some point, but there's lots of jobs to be done, so it's on the to-do list. So there's the exact same bilge in the engine, under the engine as well, but under the engine is hard to get to and hard to see, so I'll not show you that, but it's exactly the same bulge. But what I did was wire them both up to one switch, which you can see here. C-flow, automatic and manual bilge pump switch. So with this you can manually engage the bilge pumps. You can hear them go in there. Or if I was away from the boat, if it was docked at a marina or on the sea somewhere, I could just flick it to auto, and if the water level obviously rises above the bilge, they'll kick in and pump the water out. And that's just your fuse there. Which brings me back round to this bilge switch here. So you probably might be asking, what does that one do? This one, unfortunately, I couldn't put that big switch in there for obvious reasons. So this powers the radio now, which is under here. It is a VHF radio, marine to shoreline radio. I just need to mount that properly, but that does mount the radio, so at some point I'll probably just cover that over and try and find a similar sticker or label just to say radio. We did wire, so the 240 plugs inside are all spot on, so they're wired up correctly. We've got USB, USB-C slots. Got another plug in here. There was 2 wires just hanging out here, which were hooked up to the fuse box, so it's definitely 12 volt. So we just put some more USB chargers on there, because if somebody's sleeping down here, they might want to charge their phone, so they can just plug it in. That is the electrics in a nutshell. So the electrics are good. We know that they're safe. They're not going to cause me any issues. I just need to buy some more bits like the horn, the nav lights, and the anchor light. But I'm not probably turning it over, but you can hear the engine here, so, which fills me with lots of joy, because that just didn't work for a long time. And I spent weeks trying to figure out what it was. It turns out it was just 2 wires that weren't connected. But to be on the safe side, I put the new solenoid in, which you'll see in the other video. So I'm buzzing, the electrics are spot on. So thanks for tuning in on this video. Electrics are done. If anybody wants to know a little bit more about the electrics in depth and how I've done it, please comment below, and I might be able to provide some answers, or I can do a more in-depth video of what electrics I've done, how we've wired it up, etc, etc. But thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more. Peace out.